Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Heart of Business. Today, I want to introduce my friend David Streisand, and he is here in the Myrtle Beach area. Hi, David.
Hello.
I know David from our homeschool group also, so I'm bringing on a lot of my great friends. It's a very entrepreneurial group, so I really enjoy that and love highlighting people's small businesses and what kind of got them to where they are today. So I wonder if you could just tell us a little bit about what you do and then we'll go into your path of how you got to where you are today.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me, Laura. Just to kind of sum it up short, and then I could dive deeper if you want. Basically, my main businesses consist of getting checks from YouTube, technically Google, as well as Amazon. And so it's broken up into a lot of different things. I have a few different YouTube channels that are monetized. And then with Amazon, a part of the Amazon influencer program, which basically I do product review videos. And if someone watches the video, buys the product, I get a commission with that. And then I'm also have Amazon affiliate links. And so basically a combination of YouTube and Amazon all together with multiple channels, thousands of product reviews, and like a whole network of all that type of stuff. Yeah, so that kind of sums it up. Basically, a lot of videos and getting paid from Amazon and YouTube.
Great. Now, I also know that that you have a book that you wrote and that kind of thing. So tell me a little bit about that as well.
Yeah, sure. So the book is about my trip. What was it? 2013. Feels like another lifetime ago. But I took a seven continent trip and it was 4 months and I only paid $241 in flight costs. So basically started in excuse me, started in New York and then went to South America, went to Antarctica, then Australia, then Asia, Africa, Europe, then back to New York. I could dive in deeper with that as well. And basically, with all the flight costs, it came out to $241. And the way I did that is basically using a bunch of miles and points. And I just had to pay the taxes, which was the $241. And it was over the course of 4 months. Met up with my wife. She did her own 4 month trip as well. And we met up in Thailand and she was pregnant actually with our daughter Bella. And so we met up in Thailand for about 5 weeks, Thailand and Laos. And yeah, then she went to Peru and Colombia, Taiwan. So she did her whole own world trip, which was all with miles and points, and same with me. And so between the both of us, it was maybe less than $500 in flight costs for all of us to go around the world and experience that. So I decided to first have a blog that I had where I was documenting the journey, talking about miles and points, more focused on the travel and the trips. And then I thought, oh, I'll just make a book out of this. And once my daughter was born, I wanted to make a book. That was the main motivation. It was our first daughter, and I've just heard some stories. I didn't know if anything would happen to me, like not to get morbid, but if I passed away before my daughter would actually know me. So I wanted to leave something that I would be proud of that she could have just in case I passed away before she remembered me. So that was the main inspiration behind the book. I was just going to keep it as a blog, but my daughter kind of inspired me to have maybe something tangible where I could, share with her and that she could have for the rest of her life. So it was dedicated to my daughter Bella.
Wow, that's amazing. What a great story.
Yeah.
Yeah, good. Well, tell us, like, how did you get involved in all of this? Tell me a little bit about growing up and how you became interested in the travel and all of that.
Yeah, sure. So I would say I first caught the travel bug probably, I think I was around 14, and my mom took me to Italy, or took me and my sister to Italy, and she was very adventurous, very open-minded. So I got a lot of those traits from her. And she's Italian, first language is Italian. So when we were there, we kind of explored and we got a different experience of going to Italy because my mom spoke fluent Italian. So as soon as she would go somewhere, start speaking Italian, it's like we had locals kind of showing us things that maybe tourists wouldn't have seen because my mom spoke the language. And I remember we went in the city of Bari. There was this monastery that we stayed at, and she's like, "Hey, let's go explore." And so we were walking around the different corridors of this monastery, and even things where it said like, "Don't enter, do not go." And she's like, "Come on, it's okay. Let's just go anyway." And we're going in all these different rooms, and I remember like the feeling. My heart was pumping. I'm like, "Should we be doing this? Should we not?" And I had that that adventure, thrill-seeking type of attitude ever since that moment of us going into, places that weren't authorized or whatever, exploring this monastery. So I would say from there, I'm like, oh, I want to keep traveling. So from there, I would just, my favorite way to travel was to know someone in another country and just kind of say, hey, can I come? And so the following year, I think my cousin moved to London with her husband got a job there. And so I'm like, hey, can I visit you in London for a week in the summer? She's like, sure. So went to London. Then she moved to Japan. So I followed her to Japan. Had friends studying abroad in Spain. So I visited them in Spain. So these are a bunch of different trips through the years where I'd spend a week just staying with somebody. And so I kind of sort of got that local experience
Mhm.
where I was doing things that normally tourists maybe wouldn't have access to. And from there, I took a 3 month trip in South America. This was probably my first big backpacking trip where all I had was a backpack, maybe like 15 pounds in my backpack, small enough to always keep on me. If I went on a plane, it would always fit above, never had to check anything. If I was on a bus, it would always stay by my feet. And so that was an amazing trip. Love that. And that taught me just like how to kind of be a really good problem solver on the run. Like if, we could get into like how I sort of got robbed and,
Right.
be stranded in certain places, didn't know where I was going to sleep, meet a bunch of random people. And yeah, so that, oh, and also on that trip, I did couch surfing, which, if you're not familiar, basically I would stay with random people. It's this website called couch surfing, basically Airbnb, but it's completely free. So I had a profile, the host had a profile, and would say, hey, can I stay with you for like 3 or 4 days in, Bogota, Colombia? And just say, sure. So then I would stay with them. They would show me around, and that was a great way to travel, to backpack around without having to pay for a place to stay and to get a really good local experience. So it kind of translated from a lot of different earlier trips to that one. And then I got back from that trip and loved it so much, but spent all my money. I was maybe like 22, 23. And I'm like, all right, how can I travel more and cheaper? There's got to be some other ways. So I just went on Google, started looking up different ways to travel for cheap and then came across something called travel hacking. Like, what is this? And this is the whole world of miles and points. And this is back in 2011 is when I first got introduced to this. And then I fell in love with it. I'm like, really? You could just get a credit card, spend like $1,000 on the credit card, and you get like 70,000 miles and a round, which is basically at that time was a round trip to anywhere in the world. So got a bunch of credit cards and started becoming obsessed with it. Started using that for more travels and trips. So I know I got into a lot of different topics there. If you want to dive deeper into any, let me know.
Yeah, well, first, where did you grow up?
Oh yeah, sure. So I grew up, born and raised Long Island, New York,
Okay.
and then when I was 18, went to college in University of Tampa.
Okay. And what did you study in college?
I studied. It was a what was it? I forgot which was my major. I think it was major in marketing, minor in advertising.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
But
And
go ahead.
graduated 2008,
Okay.
which was like pre-social media. So everything I learned was like the old school marketing and like all this stuff that is definitely not used today. Or
Right.
maybe some core principles are, but a lot of the stuff they were teaching us. And then from there I decided I never wanted to have a job, so just kind of always had different businesses and side hustles since then.
That's great. Yeah, I thought that would be good for the context of like, traveling. And did you ever go overseas before you were 14 with your mom to Italy or?
Uh, I don't think so. Maybe Hawaii when I was 2 years old, but
Sure.
besides that, I don't think so.
Okay, so that was really when you started your traveling. That's
Yep.
great. Yeah. And I just love that because we sometimes we go to college because that's what's expected or we think that's the best route, but obviously you didn't pursue it too much, did you? What you just studied?
No, no, I was a solid B student, and
Uh-huh.
so I figured I would just do what I was interested in, and then I knew like early on I just never wanted to get a job. I just always wanted to work for myself. So, but college was a thing to do, and so
Yes.
that's why I went. But it was great. I loved it.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then something you said about your trip to South America, and I don't know if I'll remember now.
Yeah, sorry, I spoke a lot, kind of rambled a bit.
That's okay. No, I loved it. I loved it. But there was something that I thought was really interesting. Maybe it'll come back to me.
Okay.
Yeah. So, okay. So you went to South America and you did all of the surfing, couch surfing, which I just
Yeah.
think is really, really amazing. Did you ever? Oh, that's what it was. It was you had some maybe not so good experiences. I find those interesting. So tell me a little bit. And also, you said something about like not knowing. So you sort of, I think that's really important for today is that everybody always wants security and to know what's coming next before they make any kind of moves. And I think that the thrills in life are not knowing, are taking the chances, are trusting and having faith that things will work out. So maybe kind of talk about that as in your time.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I think, as civilized humans, we've prioritized security over freedom. But I think younger parts of ourselves, maybe our inner child, our little children, are like, we want more freedom over security. And any animal will always choose freedom over security. So on this trip, the 3 month South American trip, I kept reminding myself, find security in the unknown. I think at the time I was reading this book, Seven Spiritual Laws of Success by Deepak Chopra, one of my favorites. And one of his was finding one of the big lessons from that was finding security in the unknown and be comfortable with change. Right. So that was kind of the theme of the trip because I knew I was going to be sleeping in a different bed every 3 or 4 days. I didn't have anything planned. So was hitchhiking, going on 24-hour bus rides, things like that. So along the way was always coming across some, crazy experiences, most of them good. As I mentioned before, one of them bad. It's not too bad, but along the way I was able to learn Spanish, and so I was traveling from, let me see, I haven't thought about this in a while. I was traveling from Ecuador to Peru. No, no, sorry, from Peru to Ecuador and went to this one bus station. Just got off of like a 24-hour bus ride because I was in Machu Picchu. And so got off of this bus, and it looked like one of the workers there was like, "Hey, the whole city is going to shut down, and you have to leave right now because there's voting. We're having a campaign. No planes, no buses in or out of the city." And so I asked him like, "Oh, like how do I get out of here? I have to get to this one city because I was meeting up with a friend in Ecuador." And he said, "Oh, I could drive you." And I said, "All right, it's a little strange for a worker to drive me." And so he said, "No, it's okay. I'll just take you out of the city to the next bus station." So I'm like, "Okay." And up until this point, I've, been with a bunch of strangers, staying at strangers' houses, meeting new people. So I just had a really optimistic view of humans in general. I thought everything was good. But I think if I just went into the situation, I probably would have saw a bunch of red flags. So then as we're going to the car, this other guy comes in the car and he's trying to be friendly or whatever, but I kind of got a weird vibe, and he's like, "All right, put your backpack in the trunk, sit in the middle, don't put your arms out the window because someone who did that last week got their arm chopped off by a machete." And so I kind of noticed, I'm like, all right, these are some weird fear tactics. And then there was a police officer. He's like, "Hey, be really safe." And in hindsight, I think he might have been in on it as well. So then we get to this border city, the border between Peru and Ecuador. And he's like, "All right, this is the most dangerous city in South America because this is where a lot of drugs are trafficked in and out." and you have to be really careful. Don't look at anybody. I'm like, okay, like I was in a lot more dangerous situations before. I'm like, this isn't a big deal. And so then he pulls up to a random little parking lot, middle of nowhere, and he's like, "Hey, you have to give me $100." I'm like, "100? We agreed on like 30 sol, which maybe at the time was like $3 or $4." And I'm like, "No, I'm not giving $100. I don't have $100." And this is all in Spanish, and so we're like yelling back and forth, and then like after arguing for maybe like 15 minutes in this random parking lot in the middle of nowhere, like I had this thought come in my head. I'm like, "Wow, I'm in the middle of nowhere. No one knows I'm here. Something bad could happen to me." Let me just give him money. So, with traveling, you always have your money in different compartments, different parts of the backpack, different parts of my body. And so I reached this one and I forgot how much I had, a couple of like 20s or something. Like, this is all I have. And he's like, okay. And then they drove me to, on the highway to this bus, flagged down a bus, put me on the bus, which was going to the city I needed to get to in Ecuador. And so that was it. So it was like sort of like robbing with a smile. I've heard a lot worse situations, but it could have been worse. But lost like $40 or so in that.
Wow.
But it was a good lesson.
Yeah. Well, and it's a lesson in intuition, right? I'm sure
Yeah.
that you probably after that experience, did you get a little more in tune with your spidey sense? Want to,
Yes, but it's funny because then after that, I just had so many more good experiences with random people. I just kind of forgot about it and became naive again. But no, thankfully, nothing else bad happened on that trip. Future trips, yes, but that one, everything was all good. So I just I'm like, you know what? Let me just forget this. Let me have trust in humans again, and all was good from there on.
Gotcha. Wow.
Yeah,
That's great.
yeah.
Very cool. Yeah, so that was your travel. And tell me a little bit about you got into the travel miles. When did you decide that you were going to do this world trip? And then also maybe before that, it sounds like you met your wife before then and that kind of thing. So yeah, tell
Yeah,
me.
yeah, sure. So I discovered the whole travel hacking, which is all the miles and points, fall of 2011. Haven't met Christine yet, my wife, and I just went all in and was reading like 4 to 6 hours a day, just in these forums and reading everything I can, gathering all the information on the credit cards and travel points. For those who don't know, basically, the short story of it is if you get a credit card, you probably see all these offers in the mail and everything. You get a credit card, you complete the minimum spending of, let's say it's 1,000 or something like that. You spend $1,000, they give you 50,000 miles, right? Just as a quick example. At that time, there was no limit to how many cards you could get. So I think I got like 10 or 15 in the first month or two. So immediately I accumulated close to 1 million miles just within a couple of months. And that's enough to go anywhere in the world. So at that time, I think I've been to like 4 or 5 continents. So then from there, I was living in Brooklyn, New York. So we're gonna have both stories kind of intertwined with me,
Sure.
Christine, and the travel miles. So living in Brooklyn, and I was like, I want to like complete my 7 continents. I was 26 at the time. I'm like, you know what? I want to go to all 7 continents. I have all these miles. How can I do this? I just need to go to Antarctica and Australia. And then I'm looking at the map. I'm like, well, if I go to Antarctica and Australia, I'm already in that side of the world of Australia. Might as well go to Asia. And then, like, if I'm in Asia, Africa's right there too. And then on the way back, I might as well hit Europe. So then I just kind of mapped out over a couple of weeks of how I could use all these loopholes with booking flights, with miles, and I'm not going to get too technical, but there's a lot more loopholes of how you could get extra flights with a very little amount of miles. And so basically book that trip and and then I met Christine that summer, pretty much the same time, summer of 2012, pretty much the same time that I booked that trip. And then our first conversation, the way we met was in the Hudson River, right next to Manhattan. There was free kayaking, and I think it was like 60th Street. And you just go there and you get some free kayaks. So randomly, one of my friends was like, "Hey, you should go free kayaking on a Saturday morning." I said, "Sure." So I went kayaking around, and then I see Christine. Haven't met her before. We see each other, we lock eyes, we start talking, and our first conversation was about travel. She was going to Spain in a couple of weeks, and I was telling her about couch surfing. She did couch surfing, as I mentioned before, where you get to stay at people's places for free. And then then immediately after talking, she invited me to the movies with her friend, with her guy friend at the time. So it was like, a little awkward. I was kind of third wheel, but then he became the third wheel. And then ever since then, we started talking, hanging out, and we were pretty much to get together ever since. And I
Wow.
was telling her about my trip, and I'm like, hey, I'm gonna go on this trip. And you should travel too, and then we can meet up in Thailand. And so then I told her how to get the miles, booked her trip, had my trip, and so then yeah, that's how the trip happened. And then from there, I just became really obsessed. So I did the trip. It was great. We can talk about that too. But in terms of business, I got really obsessed with the miles and points. And after that trip, I was talking to everybody about miles and points. Like I was reading on it for at least 4 hours a day. Couldn't stop talking about it. Every single person I came across, I'm like, hey, you got to get this credit card, miles and points. And people were like, okay, maybe like 1 out of 10 people did it. And so then I created a blog and was talking about the miles and points. It was called, it was originally called Napoleon Streisand Intelligence.
Hmm.
And okay, so the name, let me get back to where the name Napoleon came from. So on the trip, on the seven continent trip, I created like an alias. I wanted it to be something bigger than it was. And so I created an alias Napoleon Streisand. For those who don't know, my name is David Streisand. So was Napoleon Hill was a really big idol of mine. He wrote the book Think and Grow Rich,
Sure.
as well as a few other books. So I was a really big fan of his. So I decided to have the name Napoleon Streisand because where did that name come from? Oh, because I was also doing extra work. So I worked in New York City. I was like an extra for movies, TV shows, commercials, and a bunch of people were telling me about their stage name that they wanted to have if they ever make it in acting. I didn't really have a desire to do acting, but I loved being an extra in movies and stuff. So I'm like, oh, I'll create the stage name Napoleon Streisand. And then the trip suit came after that, had the blog. Then from the blog came the book. And then I'm like, how am I going to sell this book? So I created a course. And then I thought, how am I going to sell this course? So then I created a YouTube channel talking all about credit cards, travel points, miles, things like that. And then from the YouTube channel, it just kind of grew from there. But again, sorry, rambled a
No,
lot
I
in a
love
lot of
it.
different directions.
That's
Yeah,
exactly what I want this to be is a
yeah,
conversation of, just how life unfolds because I think,
yeah.
sometimes people think that they need to find their purpose and then take action and I find it's really actually the opposite. It's almost like follow your passion and then your purpose will sort of reveal itself little by little and not that there's one purpose, but just by following your passion, that's where you start to build something.
Absolutely. Yeah, yeah. A lot of it, I think, was from action, taking action. And then, like you said, another opportunity would present itself. And if I felt passionate enough to go through with it, where it didn't feel like it was a struggle, then I would follow that. And then it led somewhere else and somewhere else. And then it was kind of like a tree branch, just kind of branching off in different directions.
I love that. And how are you supporting yourself financially during those times when you were getting so obsessed with the points and things like that?
Yeah, so my first few trips. Let's see, trying to think back. Okay, so basically my whole method, I wish, so this is like 2011, 12, 13. Basically back then, like internet business was available, but you had to be a little more tech savvy, and I wasn't that tech savvy yet. Nowadays, it's so easy.
Right.
You don't have to be tech savvy or anything. Everything is done for you. But back then, I wasn't tech savvy enough, and I really wanted to have an internet business. I just didn't know how.
Sure.
So I did the traditional way where I just either worked, I had like a business and then worked it, saved up a lot of money, went on a big 3 or 4 month trip, came back, broke, and then started all over again.
Wow.
So at that time, the main business I had was a food, like a private chef business slash catering business. So at the time, I was really passionate about raw vegan food, and I was a raw vegan for a few years back then. And same thing. I was anyone I spoke to, I like, oh, you got to try raw vegan. It's really good. You know, we're the only species on the planet that eats cooked food. It makes no sense. We got to eat raw vegan or eat raw and vegan, just like a lot of other animals and all that. You know, that's how you get all the nutrients. You kill the food if you kill the nutrients if you cook the food, right? So that was like the whole mindset. Of course, now I'm a flexitarian. I eat whatever I want, when I want, meat, cooked food, whatever. But back then, that was the mindset. And
Sure.
so same thing. I just spoke to everybody about it until I was volunteering at a farm, organic farm at the time. And they're like, hey, do you want to like have a host like a talk and you could talk about raw vegan and share some recipes? And I'm like, sure. And so then went to the farm and there was like about 50 people there. And it was the middle of the farm. So I set up a little demonstration where I was talking about raw vegan foods, the benefits, shared some recipes right there on the spot, and it got a lot of good reception from it. A lot of people liked it. Some people like this is just weird, you know, like it makes no sense. I'm happy with my burgers and fries and pizza. And but then this one woman came up to me after. She's like, "I love what you do, and I really want to do it. I just don't want to do any of the work. Can you do it for me?" And I said, "Sure." So then the first week I juiced for her. Like, so it was like I made juices. Like a lot of stuff was from the organic farm that I was volunteering at, juiced. So through a juicer, like vegetables and carrots, things like that, and then a salad. And I'm like, how much, how much do you want to pay for this or whatever? She's like, just charge me whatever. I'm like, okay. So $40. I think it was like $40 a week for 5 days. And I think it consisted of two 16-ounce juices and a salad. I'm like, have this. It got a lot of nutrients in it. It's really good for you. And then that first week was good, but then the next week she told two of her friends. So it went from one person to 3 people the next week. And then after that, it turned into 8 people.
Wow.
And then I think it went up to 10 people. And then I'm like, all right, I got to cap this. So what was it? No, I don't think it got up to 10 people. It might, with that one, it might have stopped at 8 people. And so I loved it because I was maybe 24 at the time. I would make all the juice and salads really early in the morning. So and then I would deliver by 8 a.m. So, I was making like maybe like 2 or 300 a day, whatever the calculation, or no, maybe forgot what it was, forgot what the calculation was, but I think it was something like 200 a day. And and then I would deliver all the juices, and then I had the whole day to do what I wanted. I would work at the farm. I would, kind of was really into nature, could do some hiking, things like that. So that was like the start of the catering business, private chef business. And then once a lot of the farm stands stopped, I'm like, all right, juicing isn't the best thing. How about like a cleanse? Because it was like going from fall to winter. Yeah, fall to or something, season change. It was in New
Hmm.
York, so it got colder earlier. And so then same thing. I cooked for one woman a cleanse, and then that same thing I went into 3, 5, and then went all the way up to like 11 or 12. And I'm like, this is too much. I gotta cap it at 10. But then with that, I was charging more because I got a really good client base. I got a lot of really rich house moms,
Mm.
and they would talk to each other at the bus stop and be like, oh, there's this guy, David. At the time, it was called David's Healthy Meals, like
Hmm.
davidshealthymeals.com, and that was like the whole business. And so then I would cook for a few of them, and they just kept telling their friends. And so week after week, I would just have all these clients where I would cook at my house, at my mom's house, where I was living with my mom at the time, package it all up, and then deliver it. And yeah, that time that was a really good business. That was making 3,000 gross per week. So and it was like about 2,000 profit net per week.
Wow.
And it was all me, and my sister was living with me too, and I would just pay her like $20 to wash the dishes. But that was it. Yeah, so that was like the main business that would support a lot of my travels.
Wow. That is so
Yeah.
great. I just love how you're really good at following just where you're being led, which I think is what you're talking about. It's like what flows and just kind of checking that out and going in that direction. Sounds like.
Yeah. No, I just it was a similar theme in a lot of my businesses. I would just
Mm-hmm.
keep talking about something, being really passionate, and then an opportunity would present itself. And then I would just kind of channel all my passion into that, and it just kind of grew from there.
Wow. Love that. Great.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. So, okay. So that tells us about your travels. One question I had when you were talking about the book is what made you think that you might not be here for your daughter?
So I guess maybe it was a movie I saw, or maybe some stories I heard where I forgot where that seed was planted in my mind, but I just remember hearing stories about, someone maybe growing up and they're like, "Oh, I never got to meet my dad." I'm like, "Oh, do you remember anything about them?" And they're like, "No, he died when I was like 3 or 4 or whatever." So I think I saw it in a movie, and then I spoke to someone
Sure.
about that too. And then I'm like, "Oh, that's so sad." And then when my daughter was being born, that kind of just planted a seed. I'm like, what if something happens to me? I can't plan something really bad happening to me, like an accident, right? So what can I do to help my daughter remember me? And so that was the inspiration for the book. Uh, Not that I thought, thankfully nothing
Sure.
did happen to me, right?
Right.
Still here
Right.
talking about it, but it was just in the back of my mind. Like, I don't want my daughter to grow up without knowing who I was if anything happened to me.
Sure. I love that.
Yeah,
Yeah, because I lost my dad when I was really young, and luckily there were a lot of stories. But
right.
I've really started realizing that, in 3 or 4 generations from now, our ancestors or the people that come behind us won't even know we were here unless we leave, you know, uh,
Right. Well, the funny
yeah.
thing is like my great grandkids are probably going to see me in this interview because times are
Right.
different now, right? Because like 3 or 4
Exactly.
generations,
Yes.
it was barely any pictures and record keeping, but all this on the internet, everything
Yeah.
lives. It's all going to be stored. Our great grandkids are going to see this, and so it's a little different now, but
Yes.
yeah, I got your point. Yeah, like you just never know. A few generations from now,
Right.
we're
And
just a random person.
right, and like you said, it's different now, but wouldn't it be neat? I keep saying this. Wouldn't it be neat to know, like 4 generations ago, what they were doing and thinking? And so I love that. Yeah, I'm glad.
Yeah, I think about that all the time. I wish I could see and feel what life was like. I'm sure majority of it was very hard and tough. But yeah, I was always just curious about that too, like what life was like, how their day to day was, their struggles, right? Because they didn't have all these robots and machines where you push a button, your dishes are washed, you push a button, your laundry's washed and dried, right? Like majority of their days were like, washing their clothes and making food, no refrigerators. So I think about that a lot too.
Yeah, yeah, cool. Yeah, so now let's move into kind of the YouTube era. I know
Yeah.
it sounds like it sort of started with your blog, Napoleon Streisand. Is that how it kind of
Yeah. So it stemmed from Napoleon Streisand, and then at the time when I had the blog, so I finished the trip. So I think the blog sort of stopped once I ended the trip. I think I wrote a few things on miles and points, but it just I thought it didn't really match because the a lot of the blog posts were mainly about travel,
mhm.
and so then at the time I had a soap business as well. It was called Bella Bars, named after my daughter. So I made organic soap and in the house and would just kind of sell that. And so I created a subscription model from that where I would have people pay a certain amount of money, and then every month I would ship them like a box where it would be like 2 bars of soap and a mystery product like a scrub or a lip balm or something like that, all homemade. And I love the subscription model because I thought it was great. Because before that, someone would buy soap, I'd have to go back and forth to the post office and ship it. And I'm like, this is annoying. And so then I created the subscription model. So I love the subscription model where someone pays once, and I know I just go to the post office one day per month and ship it all out. And so then I thought, how can I create a subscription model, but where I don't have to do any physical labor? So that's when I came up with Napoleon Streisand Intelligence, where it was where I could charge $5 per month and help people plan some trips, getting the right credit cards, using the right miles, and do it all with miles and points. And so it started off as Napoleon Streisand Intelligence, only charged $5, just wanted to test it out. Got a few amount of clients, so maybe like 10 or so clients. And so it was making, well, like $50 a month. I think I raised the price eventually to $15 a month, but it wasn't making a lot. It was a great way to do my passion. And I remember one of the stories that stuck out, this young married couple, they couldn't afford a honeymoon, so I helped them go to Rome, round trip with free hotels and like a really nice fancy hotel for what was it? It was like $120.
Wow.
And so that was probably one of the most rewarding ones because they didn't think it was possible. So that was a part of Napoleon Streisand Intelligence. And then I'm like, this is just like too long of a name, Napoleon Streisand Intelligence. People can't remember it or spell it properly because Streisand is kind of a weird name to spell. And so I'm like, how can I make this quicker? Two syllables, really quick. So then I thought, Wise Flies, WISEFLYS. I'm like, oh, that's it. This will be like my channel, my avenue for miles and points. So I created a blog, and then with the blog, created a course. I got a partnership with a credit card company. Basically, it was like a website at the time. What was it? It was Bankrate, I think it was, where I had a partnership where someone bought a credit card, or sorry, signed up for a credit card through my link, I would get a commission. At the
Mhm.
time, it was amazing. I would get like $100 to $400 per credit card sign up,
Wow.
which was a lot back then. Still, it's even a lot now. And so basically, in order to help people out, they would have to sign up for credit cards. So I would have them sign up through my links. And so that was a good way to make some money then. And I had a course. And then, yeah, and then I created a membership site. That's what it was. I created a membership site through Wiseflies. And then I'm like, all right, how am I going to sell this membership? The blog is good, but I got really burnt out from writing because I was writing for my blog. I wrote for another popular blog called Million Mile Secrets, which was like the top blog at the time for miles and points. And so then at that point, from the book, from the blog, from writing for other blogs, I got completely burnt out from writing. I'm like, I don't want to do any more writing. This is it. I'm done. So then I'm like, maybe YouTube. So then I created the membership, which was basically a bunch of courses inside behind a paywall. So I think it was like $50 a month, something like that. I had three different tiers. And so I'm like, all right, how can I sell this? So then I created a YouTube channel where I would just talk about miles and points and then kind of say, hey, if you want to learn more, join my membership. And I created that 17 days after my second daughter, Kalea, was born. So she was born July 1st. I think I created it July 18th, 2018. And it's really funny. So if you want to see like my first YouTube videos, really funny, very bad lighting, super nervous, really hard to like sound natural for
Sure.
anyone who's starting out on YouTube, right?
Yep.
So if
That's me.
yeah, it happens to everybody. You got to like
Sure.
find your voice. And so then it created a YouTube channel, and that was my new big passion. I was obsessed. So I'm like, I finally have a way where I could just talk and create these videos. And so I found an editor where this way I could just talk, film three straight videos, and then just send it to an editor. He would edit it, I would get it back, and then just put on YouTube. And so that was great. I was doing like three videos a week. Took maybe about 6 or 7 months to get 1,000 subscribers and to get monetized. So then I started making a little bit of money from the YouTube channel. I think I made like $50 the first month, then like 150 the second, 400 the third. Then eventually it was like 1,000 or more per month on the channel. So that was great. I was really passionate about it. So passionate that I would wake up at 3 in the morning, 3:30 in the morning, and film all my videos before my kids and family woke up.
Wow.
And so then once they woke up, I'm like, all right, now it's just family time. But I would spend like 3 or 4 in the morning until they woke up, just making the videos, researching, doing all this stuff. So super passionate about that. And then, so I was making money from that, maybe like a few thousand a month between the credit card partnership, monetization from YouTube, the membership. So it was good. I was like, this is great. I'm making money for my passion. I love it. I can work from home, be with my kids, be with my family, have flexibility, still travel with my family, not have to worry about a job or being at a certain place at a certain time because I always wanted to have a location and time independent business or at least some
Sure.
stream of revenue. So like, yes, I got it. And then so I did that for a few years, and then 2020 comes,
Haha.
and then COVID hits.
Right.
Nobody's traveling. No one's really interested in travel related or credit card videos. All the credit card partners dried up. They said, hey, because of what's happening, we're not going to give you any more commissions from people signing up with credit cards. So, like, that's like a big bulk of my business. YouTube
Right.
monetization is good, but not good enough. Like, what am I going to do? So, a few people in my niche were making videos about stimulus checks. So this is the time, 2020, when stimulus checks were going out. And so I think to give you some numbers, it took me a year and a half to get 10,000 subscribers talking about credit cards and travel points, things like that. Once I started talking about stimulus checks, because people wanted to know when they're getting their stimulus check, the latest news on stimulus checks, stimulus check number two, number three, right? So, so it took me 1.5 years to get 10,000 subscribers on YouTube, talking about credit cards and travel points. It took me 3 weeks to get 100,000 subscribers
Wow.
just from talking about stimulus videos and was making like a lot more money than credit cards and travel points. And so yeah, started talking about stimulus checks. And I don't know if you remember, but stimulus checks lasted like a year or two. So it was talking about that. And stimulus checks made a lot more money than credit cards and travel points. So I kept talking about that. And all the money was coming from YouTube. Basically, I was getting millions of views and, wound up with over 200,000 subscribers. It's all about the views when it comes to making money on YouTube. Doesn't matter about
Sure.
likes, doesn't matter about comments, doesn't matter about subscribes. All it matters is views. So you can even have a low amount of subscribers and still make a lot of money as long as you're getting a lot of views. So was doing that, and then of course stimulus checks dried up. There were no more stimulus checks. So I'm like, what am I going to talk about next? So then I saw a few people talking about Social Security updates. So we have around 70 million people in the country who are on Social Security. This includes SSDI, which is disability, SSI, which is supplemental security income, and then retirees, right? So there's a lot of content. And the great thing is, older people, 60 plus, have a much higher attention span than anyone younger who's on TikTok or watching shorts or Instagram. Everyone's attention span is so low, except for the above 60 group. And so they would watch my long videos. I would read articles and things like that. So that's kind of my YouTube journey. And as of now, I'm still doing Social Security videos. So if people ask me what I do, I like to say that I'm a Social Security influencer. It's kind of a joke because it's like, what does that mean? So so that's what I do now. Mainly Social Security videos, have a good following, and just kind of give updates on that.
I love it. And, it kind of goes back to your marketing background where you're looking for something that people need. It's
Yeah,
like find a need and fill it, right? That is the basic premise of marketing or advertising or any of that. So
right.
that's really
Yeah,
interesting.
it's basically just solving a problem, right? If
Right.
people have a problem, you just solve it. So rather than figuring out a way to make money or how am I going to make money
Right.
or what am I going to do, the question should really be what problem am I going to solve? And that kind of
Yes.
helps shift the focus from myself and then it brings the focus onto the customer or the consumer.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really interesting because that's something I've been thinking about because my passion and my purpose is to help people through their emotional, mental health type things. But I notice that I don't think about it quite the same way you do. So about like you said, it's a problem and how do you solve it? So I love that. I'm going to take that and think about it.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah, of
it's been
course.
kind of coming into my mind lately is, how do I put this in a way that makes people realize that it's solving a problem for them. So
Right.
love
Yeah.
that.
Especially for the listeners out there, I think a lot of us, myself included, are constantly like, all right, like I got these bills, I have to pay for this. How am I going to make money? Right. And so that
Right.
seems like the thing. So you may research, how can I make money? How can I do this? And it's always like me, 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 me.
Right.
But if we could shift the focus to, all right, what problem am I going to solve? And how am I going to help people? The more people you help, the more money you make. If you look at any rich person, millionaire, billionaire, whoever, the more people they help, the richer they get. So the more problems you could solve, the more money you'll make, right? So if you, that's what they say, like in the YouTube business, like you never talk about me, it's always you. It's always, you're
Right.
always having like a conversation to the person who's viewing, right? So it's how can I solve your problem as a viewer watching my channel compared to how can I get the most amount of views or clicks or likes or whatever.
That's so funny because I was in marketing for many, many years. I worked for a civil engineering firm. And we would get called for an interview and we would prepare our team. And a lot of the preparation, the way that engineers look at things, is they want to just tell everybody about our firm and why our firm would be the best. And what I learned over time was no, you talk about the client and their project and what they want and what they're trying to do. And they don't even care about your firm because all the firms are the same. But the more you know about them and what their problem is, and you can solve it, which is what you just said. But it took me a long time, and I had to like start teaching the engineers this as a marketing
Yeah.
person.
Totally. And I still fall into that trap as well. I'm
Mm.
not perfect. I'm not, always solving other people's problems. I'm still always wondering about my personal problems. But I think the more we could shift the focus off of ourselves and then bring it out, because as humans, we're always, trying to figure out how am I going to feed myself? How am I going to rest? How am I going to entertain myself? Right? We're always focused on ourselves. So it's natural as
Right,
humans to always think about me, me, me first. But in certain contexts, it's so, always good to think about the end consumer first.
right. Well, the last thing I'd love to cover is I just happen to know that you happen to be a pickleball aficionado. So,
Yeah.
and I think you do a YouTube channel a little bit with your pickleball too, right?
Yes, I do. I do have a YouTube channel for pickleball.
Yeah, so tell me a little bit about that because I think that's fascinating and that's such a big thing these days.
Yeah, so way I got into pickleball is when I first moved down here. So I moved down to Myrtle Beach from New York in 2016. And my dad, I think around that time, he was a big tennis player, played for like 30 years, won tournaments, so very big into tennis. He tore his Achilles and couldn't play tennis, couldn't walk, couldn't do anything for a while. So when he started to be able to walk a little bit, he started to play pickleball. So in like 2016, 17, something like that. And he's like, "Oh, I really like this pickleball game. You should try it out." He's like, I looked up a place near you. You should go." And so by our house, right next to the library, is a rec center. And I would take my daughter all the time, Bella. I would take her to the library for story time, read some books, things like that. And he's like, "Yeah, right next to that is a pickleball place." So I went there. I peek inside. It's a bunch of old people in their 60s and 70s hitting around a plastic ball. I'm like, this isn't for me. So I told them, like, yeah, maybe not. So then I went to visit him in New York. We played pickleball, and I have a tennis background. And I'm like, oh, this is actually kind of fun. And then slowly got more and more into it, loved it, became obsessed. Still always thinking about pickleball, playing pickleball multiple times. I'm playing tonight. And so I'm like, you know what? Like, how can I make money? Again, how can I love pickleball. I'm obsessed. How can I make money from what I love doing? What's like the easiest, no friction or least friction way to make money? So I'm like, all right, I'll start recording my games and just putting it on YouTube. No editing, no talking, nothing. Just record the game, press stop, and then upload it to YouTube with a catchy title, and that's it. So I've been doing that for a few years, got it monetized from YouTube, and now I love telling people too that I'm a professional pickleball player. And one of the motivations was that if I were to become monetized on YouTube and make money from playing pickleball that would make me a professional pickleball player. And I could convince my wife saying, hey, I got to go work. I got to go play pickleball. This is how I make a living now. I'm a professional pickleball player. You got to go let me play. And so that was as a joke, but that was like,
Sure.
sort of the motivation too. So yeah, I just have games and of various places where I go play and just record the game. And so that's the channel. Other channels kind of do tricks and tips and things like that and reviews, but I like to just post my game, least amount of friction. So that's like kind of another tip for viewers as well. If you are really passionate about something, what's the least friction way that you could record the process, upload it where it doesn't take any effort and you have an upside of making money from it. Downside is just a little time lost, no money out of your pocket. So that's what I thought about, becoming creating a pickleball channel called Wise Pickleball. And so, have a bunch of different Wise brands. Actually, I think I have like 4 or 5 different Wise channels.
Uh-huh.
And so Wise Pickleball is the latest one.
That's great. What
Yeah.
are the other ones?
So it was Wise Flies was the first one. Then Wise Cents. So I created a personal finance channel. That was really good because I was making some money from all the stimulus videos. And like, what do I do with this? So I learned how to invest. And so I figured I would just teach how to do that. So that's Wise Cents, Cents. And then I wanted to create a motivational channel. So I created Wise Vibes, which is a channel where I would kind of break up influential people like motivational speeches from Tony Robbins or Oprah or whoever, and then break it up and kind of present the speeches that way. And then Wise Buys, that is a product review channel, and that's kind of like where I created my whole Amazon business as well. So Wise Buys, I just talk about different products. And then, yeah, I think Wise Pickleball might have been the last Wise
Okay.
channel. I have other channels, but that's like the last Wise of those themed channels.
Right. And you said you just went on a recent trip to Asia, which I'm sure you used your travel miles for too, right? And you did a lot of
Yeah.
pickleball in
Oh
Asia.
yeah, yeah, that was like the goal. So my wife and kids, they got invited to a wedding in India, my wife's friend, which I could have gone, but then I'm like, you know what? Like 10 days, no pickleball. I don't know if that's a good idea. And so then I decided I'm like, let me take my first solo, this is my first solo trip since that round the world trip, where I went to
Okay.
7 continents, back in 2013. So yeah, went to started off in South Korea, played pickleball there. Then I went to Da Nang, Vietnam, played a lot of pickleball there, like maybe like 8 to 10 hours, or yeah, like 8 to 10 hours of pickleball there.
Wow.
And then went to China for a couple days. And so basically, to get there, it was let me see, I think it was oh man, what was it? I think it was $50 total, basically to and from Asia. I
Whoa.
did pay for the flights between South Korea, China, Vietnam, which were pretty cheap, but to and from Asia, I think it was around $50. And on the way back, the cool thing about using miles and points is, we still have like a couple of million points. Is I got a it was kind of like a first class seat because there's no first class. There's the business class seat where you get to lie down flat
Mm.
and they serve you a bunch of food and you can eat and order as much as you want. So I got that on the way back from China. So yeah, that trip was $50 for the big flights, which would have cost I think around $8,000. So I saved like $8,000 because I used the miles and then just paid the taxes, which is the $50. So yeah, but did a lot of pickleball in Vietnam too. So that was a lot of fun.
That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah. Was there anything else that you'd like to talk about that we haven't covered?
That's a good question. I mean, I could still talk if you have any other questions, but I can't think of anything
Well,
off the
I
top of
think
my
we've
head.
covered your businesses, but one of the things that's my passion that I really love is just your it's almost like your philosophy on life. Just how eh, there's this whole theme of focusing on other people and not not being afraid of the unknown. All of those things are things that I'm also really exploring in my life and trying to make sure that I have enough courage and I'm doing things that I'm uncomfortable with versus just staying in my comfort zone and doing things that are easy. Because I think that's how I've always lived my life. But now I'm starting to realize that life is asking more of me than that. And that when you are willing to go into those uncomfortable places, that life gets so much more exciting and bigger and more fulfilling, I would say.
Yeah, yeah. That's what they say. Like on the other side of fear is what you've been waiting for your whole life, right? It's like fear is like the wall
Yes.
that's blocking you, right? So, but actually, so I'll get into that. It's a really good story, actually. So, my mom, as I mentioned earlier, was like really open-minded and spiritual and adventurous, and so she was really into like self-help books and all that type of stuff.
Mhm.
And so every time that she would read a self-help book, she would give it to me. So at age 10 and up, I would have all these self-help books, as I mentioned, Think and Grow Rich, Seven Spiritual Laws of Success by Deepak Chopra, Bob Proctor, Robert Kiyosaki, all these like really good, Tony Robbins, all these really good authors, all these books. I would start reading at a young age just because it was around. I like reading. And so I think it sort of planted seeds. And I learned later on another really big inspiration. Not sure if you ever heard of Tim Ferriss,
Yes.
but he wrote the book 4 Hour Work Week, which is a really good book, but something better came from that book than the book itself. He talked about creating a life that you want. It's called lifestyle design, where you can design the life whatever you want, however you want, and there's ways to do it, right? So everyone wants to work less, have more fun. So he created the framework of how to create like a maybe an online business or somehow an outsourced business where you could focus on what you want, whether it's dancing tango or racing motorcycles, whatever it is, and you just kind of pay other people to do the work for you and create a business. And but what came from that, there was a lot of people who were doing that, and they created all these lifestyle design blogs. And so after his book came out, I started reading a lot of these blogs where people are talking about, hey, I created a business and now I'm living in Thailand and I'm only paying, $200 a month for a nice place and food and things like that. And I get to do wakeboarding every day. And so I was following all these people and then they create all these frameworks, all these different ways of creating goals. And so that kind of opened my mind to be like, all right, I can actually create the life that I want as opposed to the life that I'm supposed to be living. As long as I could fund it, I could actually do whatever I want. And so that was a start. That was like 2010 when I adopted that mindset where I could just kind of work from anywhere and create whatever type of business. And so I think you have to believe it. A quote from Napoleon Hill is if you can conceive it and believe it, you can achieve it. So that's something I remind myself all the time.
Sure.
Also, a lot of affirmations. Write down whatever type of goal you want and just kind of review that goal. And a lot of us have these negative beliefs which kind of hold us back. So you may have a goal, it's like, I want to be a millionaire. And your mind automatically goes, no, you'll never be a millionaire. That's not going to happen. You, no, maybe other people, but not you, right? You'll have this whole conversation. So the way around that is to listen to affirmations before, like when you go to sleep, like just have something on your phone go off and it's just talking, saying, I have wealth and abundance. And I know it sounds really woo-woo, but it works. It's happened so many times in my life, and I feel like I've been able to create the life that I want through a lot of these tactics. So if I'm doing some mindless work on the computer, where I need to like copy paste, do this, write, work with spreadsheets, I'll just put on my earbud and then go on YouTube and just put on a bunch of affirmations of whatever. So we have to be able to get access to the subconscious mind in order to create our reality that we have now. An example of that is if you look anywhere you are, wherever you are right now, if you're looking, if you're driving, whatever you see was created by some human. And in order for them to create it, they had to, tap into the field of creativity in order to create that, right? So they created that. So everything you see around you was created by some human, which was initially a thought. So the thought became an idea. The idea, took some action and then it created something. So a lot of those type of frameworks and mindsets is kind of what planted the seeds and made me think the way I do.
I love that. And that flows perfectly into what I do, which is I use hypnosis to help people go back. And actually, the only difference there is I also create recordings for them that are like affirmations that help them to reprogram their subconscious mind. But it also goes back to like the time in their lives where maybe those limiting beliefs came from. Maybe they were
Yeah.
experiences, or there were people that didn't believe in them, or people that told them when they were little that they couldn't do things, or they weren't worth anything, and so they sort of run around with those tapes playing, and they're not, they don't realize it. So we go in and we clean up those tapes, and a lot of times the emotion is what holds those tapes in place. So if you clear out that emotion, then you can reprogram, and then those affirmations have more room to take root. And I also say one of the things is people don't realize how much they think about what they don't want versus what they
Yes.
want. And I think
Yes.
about when you were talking about that, it's like an architect, if he was designing a building and all he did was think about what he didn't want, then it would be really hard to create that masterpiece that he envisions. You have to really see your vision of your life or the building you want to build or the whatever, and we just don't realize that we're constantly faced with problems, and we're solving problems, and we're complaining about our problems, and so we're focused 90% of the time, and the news doesn't help that. The news like runs around the world and looks for the 1% of you know fear and disaster going on, and just puts it in our living rooms every day. And so we have a very, I think, not a realistic view of what's going on in the world. So we have
Yeah.
very skewed. So it's like we have to come home and say, hey, what are the good things, right?
Absolutely, yeah. If you want to see the worst in the world, watch the news. If you want to see the best in the world, go out in nature. Um,
Right.
so, I don't watch the news. Sometimes I'll peek my head here and there, but yeah, I thought you brought up some really good points. The way we speak, like out to everybody, is how we speak to ourselves. And so, if we can learn, like you said, talk about what we want as opposed to what we don't want, be like I want to um, try to think of an example. Like I don't want to be overweight or I don't want to be poor, right? Those are really bad examples of what to tell yourself because all your subconscious is hearing is I want overweight. I want poor, right? Just to give some generic examples. I'm sure you know this, right? It's like you want to say the opposite of that. I am wealthy or I am healthy, right? So by doing that, by switching that type of mindset. So I try to teach my girls too to never say any negative words like that. If something is bad, I try to say it's not the best or things like that because I feel like those little habits will
Yeah.
help make big changes.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's great. Good. Well, gosh, this has been wonderful. Um,
Yeah.
Now, why don't you tell me a little bit about the best place for people to find you?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I mean, if you want to learn about Social Security and the latest updates, and if you want to be bored, if you're not on Social Security, you could go to Wiseflies. But I do have some really cool credit card and travel points videos. So if you go to Wiseflies, Wiseflys, and look at the older videos,
Sure.
really good way to get into travel points and things like that. If you like pickleball, go to Wise Pickleball. Yeah, so or you can like kind of reach out to me sort of through those channels, but.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't really have anything to promote.
Yeah. And then, one of the things I love is in our homeschool group, you and Brian, you both do the, I guess you would call it culture and cuisine. I'm
Yeah,
not
culture and
exactly
cuisine.
sure.
Yep.
Yeah. So you will teach the kids about a certain place from your travels and things like that, and then you'll make a meal. Is that pretty much how you guys run that?
Yeah. It's so much fun. Brian and I have a really good time doing it. So basically, yeah, we pick a country. We try to do lesser known countries.
Hmm.
And for example, one of the last ones was South Korea.
Hmm.
So went to Korea a few weeks ago, and then when I got back, we made these Korean scallion pancakes. But first, we'd talk about the culture of Korea, do some basic language things like counting, learn like what they do, what they don't do. And then, yeah, then we'd make the dish together, have all the kids cut and cook and measure, and then have them make their own scallion pancake on the pan. And yeah, so it's I love it. Brian loves it too. It's a lot of fun to work with each other. And yeah, like I said, we like to do lesser known countries. So for example, tomorrow, since tomorrow's Friday, we're doing Gabon, which I never heard of this country up
No, I
until
haven't
a few
either.
weeks ago. It's a country in Africa. And so we're making these really good, it's called akra, which is just two ingredients, cassava and banana. We grind up the cassava, strain it. Last time we did it, I strained it in my shirt and then added some mashed banana, have the kids rolling it into balls, and then we fried it, and it was really good.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
great. Yeah, it's such a neat way for the kids to learn, and they love it. I mean,
Yeah, yeah.
love your class. So
Yeah, I think Brian and I have as much fun teaching it too. It's a lot of fun.
that's great. That's good for the kids too, to see the adults having a great time too.
Yeah,
Good.
absolutely.
Well, great. Well, thank you for your time, David. It's been wonderful.
Yeah, thank you for having me, Laura. It's a lot of fun. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Take care.
Bye.